Mr. Speaker, I represent many of those people who protect us on Capitol Hill. Members of the Capitol Police, of the Metropolitan Washington, D.C. Police Force, the Arlington County Police, police who live in my Northern Virginia district. January 6th was not some distant, abstract event for my constituents. Democracy was on the line that day, but so were their lives, their bodies, their physical safety and well-being. And as events spiraled out of control on January 6th, calls for help went out on the police radios, and they were answered by men and women in uniform throughout the metropolitan Washington, Virginia, Maryland area. Some of whom were off duty, many were off duty, and they chose to get dressed, jump in their cars, and race in to help us, to protect our Capitol, to protect all here who work here. Hundreds of those officers still bear the wounds, seen and unseen, that will never heal. The January 6th pardons and commutations were some of the worst things that Donald Trump has ever done. With these pardons, Trump embraced lawlessness and violence. Trump pardoned people who beat and tased my constituent, Officer Michael Fanone, tased repeatedly in the neck. And he described it as being like torture, and it led to him having a heart attack at that very time. Jeff pardoned the people who gave a brain injury to my officer constituent, Jeffrey Smith, days before he died by suicide. Congressman Himes mentioned how he was beaten in the head with a pole. His wife, Erin Smith, said those injuries changed him in his final days. He was a different person. And as Officer Smith's death was later ruled as a line of duty death because it resulted from the injuries suffered here on our behalf. Trump pardoned the people who attacked my constituent, Officer Brian Sicknick. They sprayed him with pepper spray hours before his death from 2 strokes. The medical examiner said his death was from natural causes, but what happened to Brian before his death during the attack on the Capitol clearly led to his death. Trump pardoned people who charted Nazi slogans, who yelled racial slurs at our black police officers, including, and those who called for the assassination here of Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Trump's own Vice President, Mike Pence. Trump pardoned a man who was charged with throwing an explosive device at the police in the Capitol. This was a man who previously been convicted of domestic violence, battery by strangulation. Trump pardoned a man who stomped on an officer's head, who beat other officers with a flagpole and a crutch and with pieces of furniture, and sprayed officers with pepper spray. Trump pardoned a man who ripped off the gas mask of a police officer, beat him in the face with that, and then crushed him in a door. Trump pardoned hundreds of people who pleaded guilty to assaulting law enforcement, many of them with deadly weapons. He pardoned or commuted the sentences of over a dozen violent criminals convicted of seditious conspiracy. And by pardoning those who carry out these heinous crimes, Trump has made our country less safe, and he betrayed law enforcement heroes who protected the Capitol at great personal cost. These pardons send a message that violent crime, even against law enforcement, will be sanctioned by Trump's government if it is carried out in his name. I urge my colleagues to remember the families of the 5 police officers who died as a result of January 6th. Officer Brian Sicknick, Jeffrey Smith, Howie Liebengood, Gunther Hashida, and Kyle DeFreitag. And I urge you to remember the many officers who defended the Capitol on January 6th, who put themselves at risk to protect us, and who will carry the scars, and seen and unseen, as long as they will live. These scars are inflicted by people who will face no further legal consequences for those acts, thanks to President Donald Trump. This injustice is a gross betrayal of their service and sacrifice, but does not diminish their patriotism. After January 6th, many of my colleagues posted messages of support for law enforcement and the Capitol Police. It was on their doors, it was on their walls in the halls of Longworth and Rayburn and Cannon. It was even on social media. Members like Speaker Johnson, who called for the prosecution of those criminals who committed those acts of violence against the police who guard the Capitol. Let me quote Speaker Johnson, to the fullest extent of the law. Republicans went on to hold votes on symbolic, non-binding resolutions expressing support for police. Back to the blue, they told us. Back to blue. Their silence, or worse, their defense of Trump's pardons, are unforgivable. They can never again claim to back the blue with any credibility. Finally, a warning. With these pardons, Trump put violent, dangerous people back into our communities. Many of them did terrible things on other days besides January 6th, 2021. But all of them have just been emboldened by receiving get-out-of-jail-free cards from this president. Who knows what other criminal acts they will perpetrate next? Unfortunately, we're all about to find out. Mr. Speaker, I yield back.